Hey everybody, it's Dr. J here again. Today we're going to cover sexual harassment. Actually, you had an assignment last week where you looked at sexual harassment and you were asked a series of questions. There were some items listed where you had to answer either true or false based on your agreement with that statement. And so here is the worksheet that you were assigned. And what we're going to do is go over each of the items. For the most part, most of the students, you got them good. That's great. You got the questions right. But there were some questions, especially as we started getting near the bottom of the list, where there were some wrong answers. So don't feel bad. The good thing about it is this is a course where you're learning about workplace diversity. And workplace diversity has sensitive issues. It's a sensitive topic. So it's not something that's always discussed at home or even at work. And so it's understandable that you don't get some of these answers right. But the good thing is that you got the answers wrong here in a classroom environment, a safe space, versus out in the workplace where the consequences can be huge, meaning lawsuit, litigation, and legislation. This keeps popping up. Let me go ahead and, sorry about that. So, what about you? How much do you know about sexual harassment? You have to indicate for each of these statements whether you believe the statement is true or false. So, let's start with number one. Sexual harassment is unprofessional behavior. That's a rather easy question when you agree, and that answer is true. Sexual harassment is unprofessional behavior. And of course, these questions begin easy, but then they get more challenging as we move down the list. Two, sexual harassment is against the law in all 50 states. The answer to that question is true. Sexual harassment is covered under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That is a form of federal legislation. And so that covers all 50 states. Specifically, Title VII protects employees against discrimination based on race, religion, sex, gender, or national origin. And when it comes to sexual harassment, sex and gender are the specific items or items that explicitly protect individuals from sexual harassment. And also, based on some of the discussion boards I've seen, I think there's a misunderstanding regarding sexual harassment as if it's based on one particular gender or sex. So just FYI, both men and women can be sexually harassed. And although there are not as many, there are complaints reported by EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, of men who are sexually harassed. And so when we look at that sex and gender, that goes both ways. Anyone can be harassed sexually or feel uncomfortable in a hostile work environment or quid pro quo, an exchange of this for that, of sexual favors for any type of work benefits or advancement opportunities. That can happen to anyone at work, whether you're male or female. Three, sexual advances are a form of sexual harassment. That is true. One bit of advice I'd like to tell students is that if you're in a romantic relationship with someone at work, be very careful, especially if it's the boss. If you are the boss, you could actually put yourself in a place of liability. If you decide to break up and maybe that person is not performing as well and you give him or her a low performance evaluation, they could be perceived that that's a form of retaliation. And, when we look at quid pro quo, sexual favors or sexual harassment, maybe they might perceive you to treat them a certain way because you are no longer in a relationship. If you are an employee, I strongly encourage that you do not get into any type of relationship with others. Now, some organizations, some companies, they have policies in place that prohibit any type of work romantic relationships. or some policies. Some organizations have policies in place where if you do have a relationship with someone at work, you have to report it. I've worked at other companies where if you have a relationship with someone, you have to report it, and as a result of that reporting, you might be placed in different divisions, and especially there's a care to make sure that there's no status difference between you two, like a boss and an employee, his or her subordinate. They're in a relationship in the same department. So, but overall, sexual advances are a form of sexual harassment. If it's somebody you like at work and you're asking them out for a date or asking them out for drinks or something repeatedly, and they say no, you could be potentially they could feel intimidated by that. So no means no at work. Item number 4: a request for sexual activity is a form of sexual harassment. That also is true. 5: verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature may be sexual harassment. That is true. So it does not always have to be physical. Obscene language, lewd gestures, obscene, profane objects or posters or pictures that are misogynistic around your workplace. All these different types of things can create what's known as an hostile environment for anyone, and can be deemed as sexual harassment. 6: sexual harassment occurs when submission to sex acts is a condition of employment. That is also true, and that refers to this quid pro quo, this for that. Meaning that, hey, I'll give you this advancement, this benefit, or I'll give you this promotion, or I'll give you these leads for this sale in exchange for some sort of sexual favor, and that is illegal. Number 7: sexual harassment occurs when submission to or rejection of sexual acts is a basis for performance evaluation. Similar to 6, this whole idea of quid pro quo. So number 7 is true. 8: sexual harassment occurs when such behavior interferes with an employee's performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, and offensive environment. That is also true. 9: sexual harassment only includes physical contact of a sexual nature, such as touching. That is false, because as I mentioned earlier, sexual harassment does not have to be physical. It can be verbal. It can be gestures. It can be something that's seen by you or overheard by someone else. So you want to make sure that you're engaging in professional behavior at work all the time. And then 10: sexual harassment requires that a person have the intent to harass, harm, or intimidate. That answer is false. So ignorance is no excuse for the law. It does not matter if you did not intend to harm or harass or intimidate anyone by your behavior or by your language or anything like that. You're still held liable. That's why it's important for so many organizations to conduct sexual harassment trainings on an ongoing basis, and also to evaluate the effectiveness of those trainings, following up, finding out if there are incidents of sexual harassment at work, having hotlines, anonymous hotlines, so that people can maintain their anonymity and report what they see, even if if they're not the target of sexual harassment or victims of sexual harassment. They'll feel like they're in a safe environment where they can report it as well. Also, using types of evaluations to ask individuals at work, what's the likelihood that you will use some of what you've learned in this training to be a better employee, to be a better citizen, and to speak out for those who you believe are being sexually harassed or intimidated. And then when you follow up for the next, and sexual harassment should not just be a one-time thing. It should be ongoing, and also every year receive this. Even people who've been to a sexual harassment training should get it every year. And even if it's something as simple as a module, which are not as effective necessarily as face-to-face trainings with where we're able to model behavior with role playing and things like that. But even something as simple as a module where people complete it online, like this checklist, is important to make the issue salient to employees so that you can have a culture where everyone feels safe and sexual harassment is not a problem. So, for those who got all 10 questions right, congratulations, that's great. For those who didn't, that's also good because it's good for you to make these mistakes in class versus out in the real world where the consequences can be very dire for you. So, hope you liked this activity, and I look forward to chatting with you on the discussion boards in this upcoming week, and you enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out from Dr. J.